33 minutes past the hour. It is the Jeff Santos show that you are tuned into. MSNBC reporting that Ronna McDaniel will continue to be the head of the Republican National Committee. You know, no matter which way you go, it's just off the cliff kind of Republican Party. So, which we'll see. They were all excited about a potential coup d'etat of the RNC, and younger person coming in with more ties to the right wing loonies, but didn't happen. So McDaniel stays. That's all right. It's time for us to go to Seattle, WA. Why? Well, because we always talk to our good friend MTC on Fridays around, usually we do it around 5:30, but we're only on the air 1 hour these days. That will soon change, probably around March 1st. Our next guest is indeed Mark Taylor-Canfield. He's the executive director of Democracy Watch News. He's also the Renaissance man of the Jeff Santos show, activist, musician, and friend of yours truly. He joins us via video with his guitar from Seattle. Here we are. Here you are. Oh, new glasses today, my friend. I like them. How are you, MTC?
I don't want to lip sync at the top of the pops. I don't want to own the sugar cane or drive shops. All I want to do is rock and roll with my baby tonight.
There you go.
Baby tonight. I don't want to be your next president. I don't need to notice how the money is spent. I don't want to work for the FBI, chasing some foreign spy. All I want to do is rock and roll with my baby tonight.
Woo! Yeah!
Hey, Jeff. How you doing?
MTC live on the Jeff Santos show. How are you doing, man? I like those glasses, seriously. What's that?
Thank you. I actually wore them when I testified remotely for the Seattle City Council, so hopefully they like them too. Cool. Yeah, I can actually see their prescription.
They're
so I can
more important audience than me. That's good. So did that go well?
Yes. Well, no, we actually had some technical glitches, and people accused them of censoring me because as soon as I started speaking, the audio went off. So I had to do a little video and send that to them and send them my text version. But it's been a crazy week. I don't want to go into detail, but believe me, I've been thinking a lot about the need for universal health care. Man, I sometimes wish I lived in Canada. You know, like you say, I'm only an hour and a half from the border.
Well, for you, you're an hour and a half, yeah.
Yeah, it's been crazy having to deal with the United States. But hey, you know what? The sun came out just a few minutes ago for about 5 minutes, which is the first time in weeks that we've seen the sun here. That is a problem in Seattle. People do from the Sun Belt do get kind of depressed here when they don't see the sun for a long time. But, you know, you got to do a lot of music and creative writing and watch a lot of movies, go to a lot of the art house theaters here, which there are many of them. The Seattle International Film Festival actually has its own theater. And there's also the Northwest Film Forum, which are always showing really great art house films. And I got to meet Quentin Tarantino and Kristen Bale. Cool people at these events. So at least in Seattle, we know how to, and also the microbrews and the coffee is great. So there's always something to do. The music clubs, there's always something to do besides run around in the sun. But as soon as the spring gets here, oh man, people are going to go crazy. They're going to be running around in their shorts in 60-degree weather, thinking that it's Miami Beach or something. You watch. It's gonna be
I know that feeling. We do that here, and probably a little bit later, maybe in May. But it all comes out, man. You get to see a lot of white people with some sunburn. Come the middle of May. Hey, I want to get your thoughts because I saw your former police chief on MSNBC, Miss Best, and I don't know how you guys put up with her, man. This woman is right out of the dark ages. They bring her on because she's a female African-American police chief. And you'd figure you would get some kind of understanding and a new philosophy. I mean, might as well be talking to somebody, who worked for Gates in Los Angeles in the 1980s. I mean, kind of, dazed and confused, dude. How did she leave? Because if she spends any more time there, or she's giving any advice to the people in Seattle in terms of law enforcement, I think that would be a disaster.
No, she left as soon as they cut the budget, including there was an 18% cut in the police budget. No, we didn't defund the police, but they definitely cut the budget. And so a lot of police officers just left, which is, traditional in Seattle as well. Right after the World Trade Organization protests, a lot of police officers left the force too. So no, she left. I refer to her as, oh, did I accidentally delete those official text messages? Carmen, delete text messages is best.
Yeah.
You know, and the mayor, Jenny Durkan, got caught doing the same thing, and those are ongoing controversies here. So now I don't think a lot of people are looking to Carmen Best for an example of progressive policing in this city. So the fact that she gets on MSNBC and the Dr. Phil show and all these other things, she obviously has a really good publicity agent and
Yeah,
probably some
apparently
kind of
so.
agent that gets her these gigs. But you know, in Seattle, people are not paying much attention to her except for these lawsuits because of them deleting text messages after allowing the police force to use copious amounts of tear gas after she promised that they wouldn't. And after complaining that she had no idea that the police were going to abandon the East Precinct, and then we come to find out that she knew all about it. So, you know, I don't trust her as far as I could throw her. As far as Jenny Durkan is concerned, her political career is over in Seattle too. Unfortunately, our current mayor, Bruce Harrell, who's also another African-American, is really sided with the business community here. He's done a lot of sweeps of homeless camps, which, you know, earlier today on the Tom Hartman show, we were calling economic refugee camps. But, you know, he's all about business and development, you know, and so it's the typical thing. The mayor's office is always the least progressive person in the city government. And then you have the city council with folks like Shama Salant fighting tooth and nail to try to get progressive ordinances and resolutions through that help the poor and working class. But, you know, sometimes they're successful. She did get the $15 an hour minimum wage to go national, which is amazing. But a lot of the other problems that we have here, like the high rents, the $5,000 a month new apartment buildings and stuff like that, there hasn't been any progress on rent control. Hopefully,
Yeah.
Initiative 135 will pass on February 14th on Valentine's Day, and we will have permanently publicly owned affordable housing in Seattle for poor and elderly people, but also for middle-class working families. That's one of the proposals, is that, you know, this isn't just for people who don't have a place to live. It's for people who are struggling to survive with high inflation rates and stagnant wages in the city, to allow working families to have a place to raise their kids in a safe and secure environment. So I'm hoping that happens, Jeff. If we can set examples for the rest of the country, and it is going through, also a similar proposal is going through the California Assembly, and has also been introduced in Hawaii in their state legislature. By the way, 60% of all of the housing in Vienna, Austria is either subsidized or government owned. So there you go. And it keeps,
there you go. And how government uses their taxes to do the right thing, to pay for majority of their citizens, as an example, there in the Australian largest city. I want to get your thoughts here on what is happening in Memphis. And I guess they're going to release it a little bit later. I guess the city council there in Memphis is actually viewing it first. But to me, if I'm right, the district attorney said this is close to what happened with Rodney King. And if you know that vicious, I remember seeing some recent video of that, the on again, you know, beating of Rodney King by several police officers. And it took Bill Clinton coming in and the attorney general under Clinton, because it all happened under George H.W. Bush. If you remember the thing in the 90s, the horrible incidents there. And I think if that's the case, we're going to have to sort of really get to a point where the president and leaders in this country have to come to an understanding that this is not what democracy looks like. And if you can't get control of African American police officers, who, of course, many of them know people, or sometimes themselves have been victimized by this kind of tactics. So it's not just about putting more African Americans on the police force. I mean, Al Sharpton and Mr. Crump, the great attorney that's representing the family of Mr. Nichols, who was killed and brutalized. To me, this is a time where the Democratic Party, led by President Biden, say this is not going to stand. We cannot allow this to continue in our country. And we're going to make tremendous reforms here, if it's the last thing I do, or words to that effect, because we can't continue like this. We just can't.
Well,
I mean, I don't know how you can have a democracy when this is happening. over and over and over again.
It's interesting that you use the term, "this is what democracy looks like," because that was the major chant here in Seattle during the mass protests against the World Trade Organization. And it's also the
Right.
name of our friend's documentary about those protests. And no, it's not what democracy looks like. It's what happens in a fascist state. It's what happens in China, where they execute
Yep.
protesters. It's what happens in
Some
countries where
third
there
world.
is no
Yeah.
law and order. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so we
What's
can't
going on
have
in
that
Haiti
here.
right now? That's what's going on in Haiti
Yeah.
right
And
now.
unfortunately, we've had a history of that also in Seattle. It all started with John T. Williams, a Native American woodcarver who was shot and killed uh, way back in the early 2000s, and it caused a Department of Justice review of the Seattle Police Department, which found excessive use of force and racial profiling. They are still under a
Yeah. No,
consent
that's indeed the
decree.
case. But you're right. You're right. Look, I
So it's
think,
part
Mark,
of
we're at a
yeah.
point right
And then
now.
also, go ahead,
Go
Jeff.
ahead.
Well,
No, I
we
just
also
think
had
we can't wait. We have to. I think progressives have to get to Biden, or they have to get a press conference themselves. It's black and white, brown, and have to make it very clear. This is who we are, and right now we have to change this. And I think
yeah.
should be a unifying thing. I mean, nobody in their right mind is for this, and I just hope
Yeah,
that somebody takes that understanding.
it's not a it's not a left or right issue. It's an issue of law, of the rule of law and justice in our country, and it goes way back, a long ways in our history. Unfortunately, I've been watching a lot of the old Wild West, documentaries about Billy the Kid and Jesse James and Wyatt Earp and Bat Masterson and some of those sheriffs and police who were actually ex-gunslingers and criminals themselves, and they were put in the head of these law enforcement agencies because they had the fastest guns or whatever. They killed the most people, and we need to get away from that mentality in the United States where the guy with the biggest gun wins, and the police have a decision over your life or death. That's extrajudicial execution is what it's called. It's up to a judge and jury to decide whether somebody is guilty or innocent, not the police. I actually won a federal class action civil lawsuit against the Washington State Patrol for a similar kind of thing, where they had tried to ban me from reporting on the workings of my own government in the state of capital of Olympia when I refused to leave when they were arresting 36 people. So it's something that we have to take to heart in this country. It makes us look so bad to the rest of the country. We tell the rest of the world that they need to institute democracy, they need to follow American values. Oh yeah, well, our American values where police are killing people. We had Manuel Ellis here in Washington State. Washington State used to have the weakest laws in terms of trying to prosecute police officers in the country. But the killing of Manny Ellis in Tacoma by the Tacoma Police Department a few years ago changed all that, where 2 officers were convicted of murder. And we have to prosecute these people. Justice needs to be swift and clear, regardless of the race or gender of the people involved. And it has to happen on a nationwide basis. We have to have a national conversation about this. Are we going to go through the Black Lives Matter protests again, Jeff, where I'm out there getting tear gassed every day and shot with rubber bullets because I'm trying to cover, police brutality protests? I don't want to see that again. I want to see this country grow up, mature, take its place for the rest of the world in the 21st century, and set a good standard for policing, and not this bad reputation that we've had apparently ever since the Wild West, where it was a bunch of gangsters that ran police out back then.
I mean, it's what I think, what I'm trying to say, Mark, and again, I think that this is now become, people, like to talk about the debt ceiling, and and we can't do our debt here, and what does it look like around the world? To heck with the debt ceiling. Debt ceiling is BS. A lot of countries don't even have that. But what, we're talking about the things that we've already done. What in terms of what I feel is that the society looks at that and says, well, if you're white and you're a police officer, you can get away with it for the most part. Yeah, what happened with Chauvin in Minnesota with Floyd. Yeah, a couple of other things. And Rodney King, they took a civil rights agenda. They didn't get it on the criminal charge locally at Simi Valley back in 1992, whatever it was. And to me, if you don't change this, I don't see how young people continue to come out to vote, because they're going to say, well, what are we living in here? What kind of country is this? So that's why, I mean, I'm glad to see the DA down in Memphis is doing the right thing, and they're looking to indict all of them. But, and they happen to be African American, I don't know if that would be the case if they were white, but it's a really sad commentary on our society right now.
Unfortunately, recently I've had some thoughts about this, what so-called Christian values. I'm not so sure that traditional, real Christian values, not the ones that are purported by the right wing, but the real Christian values, I'm not sure that they're even compatible sometimes with our form of capitalism, where, the billionaires control our government and control our economy, where there's mass homelessness across the country and nobody in Washington, D.C. seems to care. I mean, come on, we really need to wake up as a nation and enter the 21st century. It's time for things like social housing. It's time for police reform. We've fought these battles before, Jeff. This is not a new story, unfortunately. People should have learned their lesson by now. And we need to move beyond that. We need to be an example for the rest of the world, not not fall down on the job when we're trying to create a viable democracy for ourselves here and then try to force that on other people around the world. We really need to be a good example. And I'm waiting for that to happen. I've been waiting for that to happen for many years. I thought we were making some progress. Even under Obama, there was some progress in police reform. But, obviously we haven't gone far enough yet. And there's a big pushback in Seattle, unfortunately, against police reforms. And, I'm really shocked in such a progressive city like Seattle that people are more worried about homeless people and petty crime than they are about police officers killing people. And that's a really sad state of affairs. I don't want to see this continue. And I will continue to do my best, to highlight these issues as well as executive director for Democracy Watch News, because in order to have a viable democracy, people need to feel safe and secure in their own communities. And whether that's having an affordable place to live,
exactly,
a decent job, union.
And if you can't do that, you're never gonna be able to lead a country and never be able to build a majority party in the Democratic Party, and that's as simple as that.
Unfortunately, it leads to the right-wing fascist takeover that we don't want to see waiting in the wings. And when you have somebody like Donald Trump, who, according to Emerson College poll, is leading Joe Biden right now, I mean, that's a terrible, terrible statement about where we're at in this country. A lot of people are not voting. A lot of
people, and I include myself in this, think that we need to have a new president, new Democratic nominee. And again, I think Biden has done some good things. I just think that you're going to be dealing with so much, and at his age, at 82 years of age, when he will, if he was to get reelected in January of 2025, I mean, that's asking a lot of any individual. And I mean, even if it was Bernie. And I just feel that there is, there's a lot there. And frankly, I'm concerned. I'm very concerned that, that we could end up in a situation where we all get behind Biden, but we end up with Kamala Harris because, he can't fulfill the 4 years. And I don't think that's a smart thing by the Democratic Party. That's my view.
The young people in this country are the ones who hold the keys to the future. And as long as they're shut out of the political process, as long as they think that the political parties aren't listening to them and don't represent them, as long as we have our elders who have been in office for decade after decade after decade running things, the young people are not going to feel motivated to go out and vote. And if they were motivated to go out and vote, we saw what happened during this last election. You get young people out there and you're going to get progressive candidates. That's the way they think. A lot of them call themselves democratic socialists, and yet they don't see themselves being reflected in media, on even MSNBC and some of the so-called progressive programs. They don't see themselves reflected in the political system. And, my only response to that is you keep doing that long enough and you will have some kind of a social revolution, because people are going to push back. People who feel unrepresented in this country, who don't see, viable third parties to represent them, they're going to hit the streets at some point. And you get another fascist president in the White House, and you will see that. I guarantee you.
Well, yeah, and he won't have a country left because we couldn't do it. We couldn't deal with it anymore. I mean, once you go fascism, twice in 8 years or whatever, you're basically saying good night, goodbye, and till logo, adios, bye bye. And yeah, it's a sad situation where we are right now. I take a quick call before we talked a little bit music with you before we end. Let's go to our good friend John in Minnesota. John, I know you always have something to say to our good friend MTC there. Go right ahead.
Yeah,
Hey, John.
the police. Yeah, hi. How are you? The police departments, really are not changing since George Floyd. I don't really see a significant change in this police department, in the structure of the police department that would prevent such a thing as what happened to Tyre Nichols in Memphis, Tennessee. It's going to happen over and over again. And I don't see that we really, as a country, take this fascistic, bend or trend, I guess, with police departments, across this country. It's okay for us to allow this situation to go on. I mean, I saw, I think Jeff watched it, maybe you did too. The mother just break down on Amy Good. She was interviewing the family and Ben Crump.
Right.
That should never happen. We should not ever have to see that again, because this guy was 80 feet from his front door, and he was stopped on a traffic violation. Like, what traffic violation occurs?
Yeah, I mean, this is the craziness of it. Right. No, and this is the stuff. And I hate to cut you off because we get little time left here. 30 seconds, Mark. I don't see how the federal government doesn't address this. Biden on down, because if the attorney general, et cetera, because if you don't, this thing is just going to continue to snowball, and it can get out of hand really quickly, which is a sad thing for the country. 30 seconds, and we'll get your thoughts on some of the music stuff going on in the great 206.
Well, if anybody has a good perspective on this issue, it would be John, because in a place like Minneapolis, Minnesota, he knows exactly what's going on. If you can't get police reform after George Floyd, I don't know how you're ever going to get it.
Yep.
That's all I have
to
exactly.
Say. No, it's a sad situation, and John has given us a great insight to what has happened in the Twin Cities, and it's not good. It's the same police unions, the same people who have connections to the KKK. And, with that, unless you completely, change the leadership in these police departments, which is going to take, really. I mean, it's not only in Minneapolis, it's in Seattle, it's in Boston, it's in Dallas, wherever you may be. And if that's not going to change, then we got really major problems. Hey, just a couple of minutes.
It was great hearing on your program talk about this the other day. He's one of my heroes, and you know what, we got to get rid of the white supremacy in the police departments in this country. That's it, right?
No doubt. He's spot on as Herb every Thursday here on the Jeff Santos Show. What's the music like this weekend, my friend?
Hey, things are going great. We've got one of the best producers in the country, Jack and Dino, here, which I hope to be working with soon. The Black Tones are out there getting national attention. The Martial Law Band my friends there, Marshall Hugh and his band just toured in Europe. We got Aaron Jones, the guitar legend from Seattle that nobody seems to know about, who's opening for the Rolling Stones. So, things are really moving ahead here, and I'm so happy to see Seattle leading the world once again in rock and roll. So keep on rocking, guys. Keep on rocking, Jeff,
there in the free world. Thank you, man. Always great chatting with MTC. I want to thank Josh for producing this broadcast. Thank you all for listening, folks. Keep on fighting peacefully. Have yourself a good weekend. My name is Jeff Santos, and right now it's my time to say I gotta go.